Hello everybody, Andy here from Glasssoft Dead, the #1 Kill Team channel on YouTube, unless of course you are aware of any other Kill Team channel on YouTube, in which case, that's pretty awkward that I just lied to you, isn't it? Okay, so anyway, I want to talk to you today a little bit about Deathwatch, and I'm going to be doing it based on the fact that LGT, the London Grand Tournament from the UKTC, I don't know what that one stands for, is happening this weekend, right now. They've just gone into round 3. It's a 100-player tournament. I think it's actually 96. But then 3 didn't turn up, so it's 93. But it's close enough, right? It's basically 100 players. And they're happening now in London. And it's very interesting to see tournaments with such big numbers going on. And this is the first time that a tournament that large is using the new approved ops. And also, obviously, with Canoptech Circle and Deathwatch. And there's some numbers you can see on the graph, my left there, that they're using. I mean, I guess you can guess who the most picked team is, because that's what I'm talking about. And I want to think about what we can guess from just the people that have picked, and maybe discuss why they've picked it, and then maybe Deathwatch need to be retuned. Let's have a think about it. There you go. I will say right up front, if Deathwatch does require balancing, the operative that probably needs to be balanced most is this guy right here, coincidentally, who I just saw was behind me, the Aegis veteran. Mad lad. That's all I can say about him. Quite genuinely, I think that he is the guy that might need to be retouched. If you think about how Kill Team in general is balanced, I'll get to the numbers soon. Sorry, this is a rant. If you think about how Kill Team in general is balanced, recently they made a big change to certain factions. I'm thinking specifically there of Plague Marines, to make sure that legitimately unwinnable matchups were removed from the game. Yeah, that's a statement I've made. There you go. And I think that the Aegis veteran, for certain teams, does push Deathwatch into an unwinnable situation. Not for every team. There's only a few. And sure enough, there are going to be teams that can counter Deathwatch relatively effectively. However, the Aegis veteran, double parry and 2-up save and damage reduction, he does make some teams, he's not untakeable, downable, but you will have to spend your entire team to remove him. And then once you've done that, the enemy has killed you, or the Deathwatch have killed you. And that's something to consider, and maybe that's overtuned, but then perhaps it comes out and Deathwatch is totally fine, as we shall discuss in this. And we don't need to be tuned. I'm just saying, if tuning does need to be done, this is the first model, because if you don't know what Deathwatch are, this is the auto take model. There are other very good models that you will probably take into every matchup, but this guy you 100% do take into every matchup. Your roster begins with him, and then you select everybody else. Do you want the game to have auto takes or not? It's kind of up to you. It's a thing. Okay, anyway, let's move on to discussing, throughout this, we're going to discuss the actual numbers here, who's taken what, why they've taken it, and a little bit of a discussion there. Why have so many people taken Deathwatch? And we'll also have a look at the live stats right now as they are, and have a little bit of a chat about that, and also attempt to guess why certain players got to there. We do see Deathwatch at the top there. That is purely coincidental, as I will go over when we get there, and I'll tell you why I think Ryan there has made it there. And discuss that a little bit more. Cool. But of course, before we get into that, first, hey, if you want to support the channel, if you like what I do here, it would be awesome if you could click on, if you want to beat off your opponent harder than ever, do consider using my affiliate links for Element Games and Winning Games in the UK, or Wargame Portal in the US. That'd be really awesome. It's costs you nothing extra. And don't forget, anytime you buy Warhammer at all, you should always click on somebody's affiliate links. Whatever country you're in, whoever your favorite YouTuber is, I guarantee you they have an affiliate link. Support your content creators. It costs you nothing. There you go. Also, on a side note, you see behind these, and it's very, very poorly done thing. I need to redo this, clearly, don't I? We have the GG Easy box here, and we have the Crossfire Games box here. And the reason I point to this the GG Easy box is because he sent me a few new things. If you're into your Canoptech Circle, he's got these bad boys. If you want to very carefully, you can't see it because I'm holding it right in front of light. So that's that. If you want to measure out your nodes, and then he's also printed out some 50 mil movement tokens, which is super cool. And those both came in this bad boy. If you already have, this is a hot swap tray. If you look above, where is it here? This thing, this goes into your unit tray, so you can keep multiples of these with your team in, and then when you want to put this into your A4 box with all of his other stuff, you can just drop that in. And hey, you get 10% off if you use my code. That'd be awesome. Okay, let's get into it. Right, so 100 players roughly. Again, I think actually 93 turned up at the day. Oh, this is done. Somebody, I didn't do this. This was sent to me by a Patreon. The old Brucey boy. Thank you for that, sir. Bruce's Minions, who runs Kill Team Alliance over in Amesbury. That's where I live, not there. Over in Andover. But this was actually done, I believe, by Rashist Fern, who, gosh, ages ago now was on the channel. But he has his own YouTube channel, so you check him out, Rashist Fern. So he did these numbers, so thank you very much. Right, let's take a quick look. What do we see here? Far and away, we have Deathwatch on the table. To give you actual numbers, again, it's 93 players, but let's just say 100 threes. And out of 100, 13 have gone with Deathwatch. I believe it's 6 for Raveners, 5 for Nemclaw. No, must be 7, 6. And then 5. I know the Canoptek Circle, Hyrotech Circle, Void Dancer, Forstalker, and Undeclared are 4s. So, and then Blaze of Cain down to Aquilons are 3s, then 2s, then 1s. And my first question upon looking at this wasn't the positives, it was the negatives of, if we have 42 teams, what hasn't been taken? I think the very interesting thing, first of all, is that every White Dwarf team's been taken, which is really weird to me. Although saying that, are there Warp Coven? There must be Warp Coven, right? They don't jump out. Maybe there aren't Warp Coven. Maybe everybody has finally accepted that nobody should be playing Warp Coven. Such a broken team. It's good to see them not played. Although I don't know why people aren't playing them, because they're still really good. Or maybe they're not. I don't even know how they play in the new approved ops, to be fair. But anyway, we have 13 players, far and away the most for the Deathwatch. We then have second most for Raveners, third most for Nemclaw. Now, Nemclaw are, of course, generally considered to be one of the better standard Marine teams. So it makes sense that, firstly, Marine teams, people like Nemclaw, obviously, who are they called? Not the Nemesis Claw. Oh my God. Whatever their chapter is, are, of course, a bit of a fan favourite, the Night Lords. Thank God. Jesus, that's painful. That's painful. The brain goes when you're my age. I do apologise. You got the Night Lords, who are a fan favourite for lore reasons. They're also quite fun to just play on the boards. And so for people that are into the lore, for people that are into just casual fun, and for people that want to play a team they know, but also perhaps have a slightly better chance of winning than if they played AOD or Plague Marines or some such, they are also a solid pick. They are generally considered, I believe, to be the best of the elite teams, kind of alongside Phobos, but Phobos have very, very different gameplay. So luckily, Mark Rash's Fun has also color-coded these. So if you just visualize the reds there, I assume it's red. It could be green. I am colorblind, so we'll just guess it's red. That is your elite teams. So of 100 players, roughly a third of the, 42 teams, a third of them are going to be elites. So if you're going into a tournament like this, you do want to be thinking, how do I beat elites? Statistically, over 6 rounds, 2 of those games are going to be into elites. If you can figure out how to win against elites, you're doing pretty solid, let's be honest. And specifically how to beat 5 model teams, because now that's Deathwatch and Raveners. You got a full 5th of the board of the whole tournament being a 5 model team, which is really, really interesting. And then of course you got the Nemclaw. So that's all very interesting stuff. Just like throwing out a few numbers there as you want to think about what things are. So let's talk about the Deathwatch specifically. Why are so many people playing Deathwatch? And let me tell you for why. A couple of reasons. Firstly, and we've seen this in every single release, people like new toys. There you go. I don't think that Deathwatch being picked this much actually means anything at this point, but it is good to note that it is being picked a lot. However, if we look back, as every new team gets released, people like to play with their newest toys and they like to paint them up and take them to a tournament. And many people, this is their cycle. Every 3 months, they pick up one of the two teams, they play them once at a tournament and say, cool, I've done that team. They're locked in, done. Awesome. So that is the first reason. This is our first big tournament. It is also one of the largest tournaments in the UK. And so, of course, people are going to be playing a lot of Deathwatch and Canoptek Circle. Although, if you look down, there's not actually that many people playing Canoptek Circle, but that also makes sense because it is it's not Marines. Which is, of course, brings us to the next reason why so many people are playing Deathwatch. They're Marines. They're Loyalist Marines. They are easily the most interesting Loyalist Space Marine team we've had so far. Everything else, both the less so the Phobos, but obviously the Angels of Death team recently copped a nerf, which is going to push people away from it, even the casuals, especially for the casuals. When they're getting in, they say, oh, AOD, cool, that's what I have for my starter box. Where can I go from there? I just like Marines. Oh, Deathwatch. They're like Marines with flavor added. Because let's be honest, Deathwatch are a little bit bland. It is what it is. Fine. And of course, there are more loyalist players than heretics. So that makes sense. So Deathwatch are a natural stepping stone, or like they are the next step on the tier, on the plateau, on the dais, I've lost it. To go from AOD over to Deathwatch. Because you're thinking, oh, firstly, my guys are stronger individually, and I have less models to think about. This is only a positive from an AOD person's perspective. Additionally, AOD have just lost Dueler. They have just gone from arguably one of the teams out there that is blocking the most number of other teams from doing well in a tournament just by their sheer duelericity to losing that, and nobody knows how to play them. Definitely all good players, competitive players, sorry, not good players, all competitive players that were trying to sneak a win with a low brain, what's the word? Jesus Christ. I need to eat some blueberries or something. What's going on? With a low mental load team like AOD, will have lost that concept. That can no longer happen, really. AOD aren't winning anything now anymore, right? Which isn't necessarily bad. Teams don't have to be S tier, but you're now looking at AOD as these are no longer winnable. You can no longer podium with AOD, right? In anything beyond a 3-round tournament. 3-round, it's 100% random. Swiss doesn't kick in till 4th round, right? Doesn't matter. So you're looking at that and you think, okay, where do I go from a nerfed AOD? Deathwatch is the answer. 100%. Deathwatch is where you go. So we're getting a lot of people that are liking their toys, that are casual players, and competitive players trying to see if Deathwatch have the source, or they think they have the source. They're trying to wow everybody going into this big tournament now. Cool. So I will also say that eventually, in 3 months' time, Deathwatch will cop some sort of nerf, and competitive players will jump off Deathwatch. Okay, they just go, which is fine. But I would suggest that we still see Deathwatch as the most played faction for the rest of the 3 years that they are in the game competitively, purely because they're the interesting Loyalist Marines. We're going to get a lot of people getting into the game with AOD still. That is, of course, the starter faction. That is always going to be a highly played team. However, I do genuinely think that once we then go from the, oh, I'm just playing a starter game, next step, I'd quite like to play in a tournament. How do I do that? Oh, maybe AOD aren't the way to go. And so as part of my next step, I'm also going to transition into the more interesting and better Marine team of Deathwatch. And additionally, it's one less model, so I will play faster, which is, of course, important for confidence building into your first tournament. So I think we will always see Deathwatch as one of the top played teams. Likewise, I suspect Raveners and Nemclaw to also stay as some of the top picked teams for the rest of the game. Quick shout out to Plague Marines, 1 player of 100. Ooh, Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how Plague Marines play anymore. Legit, I've got no clue. After they've lost that native -1 in melee, I don't know, man. Yeah, pass. I don't know. So with that said, I think I'm going to move on. These are just interesting numbers, right? We're going to look at the current stats. So, as I said, right now they have only just gone into round 3, but very quickly, I do want to show you because this is also very interesting. This is our first big tournament, and they have put up this schedule. We don't care about the times, but we get to see the official missions for the new approved ops because, of course, we like to imagine that the TO has done a little bit of thinking and thought, not only do I want a good mix of missions, but I also don't want to pick any broken ones. So for sure, when I'm now going to be looking at playing different missions, because I'm the TO running this, of course, big shout out to him is Peter Worsley, big member of the London scene, and I believe, does always TO the London tournaments quite a lot. He's always been doing that for quite a while now, for a couple of years. And knowing that he is also going to be TOing the team event that I go to November 15th, which is just north of London, I can now keep in mind that he will possibly pick these same missions again, or have trialed here and then rethink for the next one. So he's gone loot, orb, transmission, data, stake, claim, secure. We can assume, therefore, that these are the missions that he feels comfortable and feels are balanced and wants to play. Now, I do notice he's gone loot, transmission, and secure. So he's played it quite safe on those 3. I think that in a 6-round tournament, the official guidance is you would only have used 2 of those, but that's fine. But the fact that I'm actually really surprised he went orb. We will talk about that in a moment. But I'm glad that he kept in stake claims. I think stake claims very fun. There you go. Right. With that said, let's go to the current placings. This is a 6-round tournament. I love a 6-round tournament. I love a 6-round big tournament because you get real data, which is really fun. Don't get me wrong. 3-round events are the bread and butter of Kill Team, but you don't get any results, right? So, like, if you look at statistics and the stats of win rates and stuff, let's just say you shouldn't take them too seriously because the majority of Kill Team events are 3-rounders and they are all Swiss. There are very, very, very few invitationals. There's like 1 invitational. I think that every year Spain does an invitational for themselves. And obviously Warhammer themselves do an invitational, which is the golden ticket event. And that's it. So 2 invitationals a year. It is what it is. But therefore, 99% of the rest of other tournaments, of Kill Team tournaments, are Swiss. Swiss only truly starts to take effect from round 4 onwards. That's when you actually start to separate the wheat from the chaff, the cream from the... What does cream separate from? Good question. Any butter purists in there? Any milkers? Any farmers? Let me know. You can help me discuss cream. So we then have at the top here Ryan Slater. Ryan, in case you don't know, is from Turning Point Tactics. He's been on my channel a few times. I haven't been on his. He doesn't really like me, so I haven't been. He hasn't invited me, but whatever. That's fine, Ryan. No big deal. Whatever. He's been on my channel though. That's fine. Anyway, go check him out. He's a very, very good player, and you should, of course, have been checking him out. Every Monday, he's doing a meta watch, which is quite fun to keep up with. But he's playing Deathwatch. It's interesting. Whenever Ryan plays something, I like to pay attention to it because it probably means there's something about that team. Maybe, and Ryan is normally somebody that can look at a team and make the team do what it should do. So if he can't make a team work, he's not the number 1, 100% best player, but he's one of the best. And if he can't make a team work, then the team probably doesn't work, is a good way to view it. So with him running Deathwatch, you've got to ask yourself, what has he played into? If you're thinking about Deathwatch, what do they play well into? What do they not play well into? So the way we find this out on BCP is you click here, and we see that the first guy he's played is John Bellamy. And he's got a very decisive 23. So we type in John B. Goremongers. Now, if I think about Deathwatch into Goremongers, from what I know, that is like an auto win for the Deathwatch. So I would call that, you know what? Cool. That's just a good matchup for Ryan there. Good matchup for Deathwatch. I've played elites into Goremongers. I'm very comfortable with that matchup. No big deal. Cool. So that's fine. Hey, that's what I said, where Swiss doesn't kick in till round 4. So let's take a look at his round 2. We had Josh S. We'll just type Josh S in. Who are we thinking? So he then gets a 21 win. What could that be into? Oh my God, Hand of the Archon. Okay. I'm just saying, right now, these guys are feeding to him. If you're into the MOBA scene, if you're into computer games, Ryan is being fed at the moment. This is crazy. These are great matchups for Ryan. This proves nothing at all about Deathwatch. Okay. If I look at a matchup and I think, oh yeah, I think I'd win that with Deathwatch, that means it's not a challenge. So Ryan's doing very well off the back of matchups at the moment. He hasn't had a win that I wouldn't have expected yet. But then take a look at Guy Barton. Guy Barton, of course, Dan Barson's father. Guy, I've met Guy, lovely guy. Lovely person is what I meant, sorry. But yeah, lovely guy. That's funny. Let's go with that. Inquisitorial Agents are a team that I'm really interested in because, of course, they are a team that I think might do decently well into Deathwatch and elites in general. Right at the start of the edition, they were considered the elite killers. So let's see what kind of matchups Guy has had. He's gone into Ryan G first with Deathwatch. Okay. All right. So I that's a good matchup. Cool. And it was a close one though. 14 to 20. No, that was quite decisive. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, that is good to kind of back up my opinion. We know Guy, we know that he is a solid player. He's easily above a 50% win rate. He's a good player. In the same way that I view Ryan as a good player. If they are winning with their teams, that is what you would expect because they are good players playing teams that they are comfortable with, most likely. Cool. So Inquisitors beating Deathwatch is good to see because that is what I would assume would happen. And so it's nice to see that my assumptions are correct. But what does he get a 19 win into? Drury. Exaction. Now, this is an interesting one. I suppose Inquisition does win this one as well, but it's not nearly as clear cut in my mind as it perhaps should be. But cool, yeah. Like the big issue with Exaction, of course, is that they tend to hit on 4s when they need to. And if you just get the Inquisitors in there, you drop one of their instead of rolling 4 dice hitting on 4s, they're rolling 3 dice hitting on 4s. They're boned. So that's the power of the Inquisitorial Agents. I don't know what Guy Barton specifically would have been running into those different matchups. Maybe it was different teams. We know, of course, that at the moment people are liking to run Inquisitors with Exaction Squad. I don't really know if that's how you want to play into Deathwatch. I imagine you'd probably want to go with your Kassakin to bring more P1 to the table. And I would also assume that he's running as much P2 as he possibly could into Deathwatch. But I don't know, right? I'm not au fait with Inquisitors. They're one of the teams that I would like to be good with, but I'm not. End of sentence there. And then we see everybody else there. The next Deathwatch is down here. The Bristol Kill Team. I'm considering going to Bristol. They've got a tournament in 2 weeks' time. If you're down south, oh Bristol, no, I was thinking of Brighton. Sorry, I apologise. So let's just see who these Deathwatch who have had a very solid win round 1, 21. What do you think he played into? What is Deathwatch beating 21 into Thomas S? What do you think this will be? Oh, that's really interesting because in the past, I have said that I think that Deathwatch are the new strongest elite team. That doesn't mean I think that they are going to have the highest win rate, but it means that I think that they beat any other elite team. They should always win that elite team matchup. However, if I had to say another elite team could beat them, it would be Nemclaw. Because I do think that Nemclaw being able to bring a melter to the table does mean the game can be relatively swingy if you just get a few good shots. I should have said if you just get a few good men, because then that's a reference, I guess. Doesn't aid my point, but having a melter on the table, like as Deathwatch, you just have to fear the melter. And how do you deal with it? Even your Aegis can be brought down by a melter. That Dev 4, you know the Nemclaw is going to put everything they've got into re-rolling so that they're getting 4 hits through on the melter. They shouldn't fish for crits, but they hope they get 2, let's be honest. And then that's a dead Marine, and then you've won, in essence. So how do you deal with that? And of course, we've all got to think about the new approved ops. I know how Nemclaw play on the old approved ops. I don't know how they play on the new approved ops. And where's our highest Raveners player? 18. Crazy. What's happening down here? But who do we think the Raveners played into? A 19 and a 14? So our first is William C. Oh, yeah. Oh, Hand of the Archon, buddies. Guys, Hand of the Archon. It's a real rough one. Because I actually don't know. Oh, I accidentally just turned that off. Whoops. I've lost it. I've lost that screen. I legitimately do not know who Hand of the Archon beats. Right? Like, you tell me. Anytime, like, for the 2 times I saw Hand of the Archon turn up there, both times I was like, oh, yeah, obviously. Of course they lost. When would I look at Hand of the Archon and think, oh, yeah, they should win that? Maybe there are some. It's really like into the 10-man, 8-wound teams, actually, isn't it? Because you're guaranteed that crit, then that rending, so you're killing them in 2 in melee. So you are kind of beating them there, and then your Seek is actually really effective there because you really don't want to get hit by that because you're potentially making them injured turn 1. It's like, yeah, that is a thing. I'm also really quite surprised to see where are Aquilons? Because this is the thing I was going to say now, wrapping it up. As I'm thinking about going into a game, as a meta, a scene where 50% of my matches are against elites, I'm thinking, how do I deal with that? Don't get me wrong, you can just hope that you're the better player in a mirror match. That's not me, but that's one way you can play it, just 50-50 it, right? Or you can specifically pick a team that beats the elite matchup. Inquisitors are probably one. We'd have to talk to Guy Barton about that as he's rocking them, which is great to see. But in my opinion, if somebody said, now, Andy, I'm going to play you with Deathwatch, I want you to beat me because I really want to learn in game, play your best team into me, I would pick Aquilons. I think Aquilons are the play. So, but our number 1 is 36th place. So, as discussed, Swiss pairing. So this means nothing. So who has he played into? First up, Mickey H. Legionary. Okay. So he smashed Legionary. Okay, that makes sense. That is exactly what I just said would happen because Aquilons, I mean, he got a 1910. Very nice. Then who did he play second? Gabriel B. What do we think? What do we think? Is this going to be an elite team that he lost to or anything else? Oh, wow. Raveners? The old Raviolis have beaten him, and I have no idea how. I know what you're thinking. Playing into Raveners. The Raveners are just going to stay underground. Right? Yeah. But only for 5 activations. And then the Aquilons get to do what they want. This is an interesting one. This guy's 21. Who did he play for round 1? EVP? Very Legionary. Okay. Yeah, that's a fair win from the Ravs, I think. Very interesting. There you go. These are the things that I like to do because I'm a really cool guy. If you can't tell, I like to look at these big tournaments on BCP and just theatre the mind, build a mind palace, and figure out why these people are winning or losing into these different matchups, and plan for my next tournament and think, am I going to go to that? Again, November 15th, Peter, Pete Dubs is going to be running the team tournament there. My other teammates have locked in Mandrakes / Blazer Kane and what's the other one? Raveners. So I got to pick something else. I could go Deathwatch. I could go Nemclaw. Maybe Wrecker Crew. But then that makes me very bad on Into the Dark and 2 mod. Or I could go, if I really want to surprise people, go with Inquisitorial Agents or Aquilons, which wouldn't be a surprise, but it will probably win the matchups, right? Those are kind of the teams I'm flitting about in my head. There's also Canoptech Circle as an option. I don't know if I like how they play, but they can beat elites. There's no doubt about that, thanks to their big guns. But then I don't really know, like, an elite player really shouldn't be giving those guys shots, you know? That's a bit of a weird one there. These are my thoughts. And then I'm still considering it. I need to reach out to them. The Brighton Kill Team in 2 weeks' time, I think it's the 18th of October, are having a tournament down there. So I might decide my team for the team tournament and then do the Brighton Kill Team as a warm-up, as a practice. So there you go. And hey, before you leave, don't forget that you can support me by buying from Element Games and Whaling Games in the UK, Wargame Portal in the US, and again, I've got a bunch of funky stuff from GG Easy. You got the discount codes below, and of course, the Crossfire games is still a really solid thing. And I also have other things like some wound markers, blah blah blah. Go and check out all the links below. That'd be awesome of you. Thank you for watching. What do you think about Deathwatch and if they are OP or not? I feel like I didn't really answer that question because I just got rambling, didn't I? That's fine. Cool. You do you, Andy. You do you.